Nathan Sullivan's heart races as he raises his hand, placing the winning bid on the trembling Denobulan slave girl. The dimly lit auction house on Zaloria falls silent, all eyes fixed on the human who dared outbid the notorious Zalorian torturer. Xena, the last survivor of a once proud Denobulan noble house, stands on the auction block, her violet skin paling with fear as she locks eyes with her new owner. The auctioneer's gavel strikes, sealing the deal. Nathan steps forward, acutely aware of the delicate political situation he's thrust himself into. Freeing a slave on Zaloria could spark an interstellar incident between humanity and the aggressive Zalorian Empire. He approaches Xena, whose eyes widen with terror, clearly assuming her fate involves pain and suffering. Nathan gently takes her arm, leading her through the crowd of wealthy alien species known for their cruel treatment of slaves. The air is thick with tension as he guides her towards the exit, feeling the burning stares of the other bidders on his back. A shadowy figure in the corner takes particular interest, tracking their movements with cold, calculating eyes. Outside, the harsh Zalorian sun beats down on them as Nathan hurries Xena towards his modest trading vessel. The spaceport bustles with activity, providing cover for their hasty retreat. Once aboard, Nathan secures the airlock and turns to face his purchase. "Xena," he begins, his voice soft but firm, "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." The Denobulan slave girl backs away, pressing herself against the hull of the ship. Her body trembles, years of trauma evident in her posture and the fear etched across her face. Nathan realizes gaining her trust will be far more challenging than he anticipated. As he attempts to explain his benevolent intentions, Xena remains skeptical and fearful. Her violet eyes dart around the ship's interior, searching for potential weapons or escape routes. Nathan keeps his distance, aware that any sudden movements might shatter the fragile calm. "I know about the fall of Denobula," he continues, hoping to establish a connection. "I'm here to free you, and maybe you can help me understand the Zalorian threat to human colonies in this sector." Xena's expression shifts slightly, a flicker of interest breaking through her fear. But before she can respond, a proximity alarm blares through the ship. Nathan rushes to the cockpit, his heart sinking as he spots a sleek Zalorian vessel approaching. The shadowy figure from the auction house has made its move, setting the stage for a dangerous game of cat and mouse through the star-studded expanse of space. As Nathan powers up his engines, he knows that his actions today have set in motion events that could alter the fate of both humanity and the conquered Denobulan people. With Xena still untrusting in the cargo hold and a Zalorian ship on their tail, Nathan realizes that his mission of mercy has become far more complicated than he ever imagined. The true test of his resolve and humanity's place in this complex galactic landscape is about to begin. As the Zalorian ship closed in, Nathan's fingers flew across the control panel, initiating evasive maneuvers. The ship lurched, throwing both him and Xena off balance. She stumbled into the cockpit, her violet eyes wide with panic. "They're coming for me, aren't they?" Xena's voice trembled. Nathan shook his head, focusing on the nav screen. "Not if I can help it. Hold on tight." He pushed the engines to their limit, weaving through a dense asteroid field. The Zalorian vessel, larger and less maneuverable, fell behind. As they emerged on the other side, Nathan set a new course, activating the ship's stealth systems. "We've lost them for now," he said, turning to Xena, "but we need to lie low for a while." Over the next few days, Nathan guided the ship through lesser-known trade routes, always watching for signs of pursuit. He set up a small living space for Xena in the cargo hold, giving her privacy and a sense of security. Xena remained wary, keeping her distance. Nathan didn't push, instead focusing on showing her the ship's systems and explaining his trading business. He pointed out constellations on the nav screen, describing the various alien species he'd encountered. "This sector here," he said, indicating a cluster of stars, "that's where I first heard about the fall of Denobula. I'm sorry for what happened to your people." Xena's posture softened slightly. "You know about that?" Nathan nodded. "It's part of why I did what I did at the auction. No one deserves to be enslaved." As the days passed, Xena's curiosity began to overcome her fear. She asked questions about human culture, technology, and Nathan's life as a trader. Nathan answered patiently, careful not to overwhelm her. During a routine maintenance stop at a neutral space station, Nathan docked the ship and turned to Xena. I need to resupply. Will you be okay here, or would you like to come along? Xena hesitated, then nodded. I'll come. I need to see something beyond these walls. As they walked through the bustling station, Nathan noticed Xena's amazement at the diverse array of alien species coexisting peacefully. Her wonder was cut short when a booming voice called out, Nathan Sullivan, you old space dog! Nathan turned to see Captain Zarek, an Andorian merchant he'd dealt with in the past. The blue-skinned humanoid approached, his antenna twitching with curiosity as he spotted Xena. And who's this? Zarek asked, his eyes narrowing. A denobulan? I thought they were all, well, you know. Nathan's mind raced. This is Xena, my cultural liaison. She's helping me navigate some delicate trade negotiations in this sector. Zarek's antennae quivered skeptically. Is that so? I wasn't aware of any free denobulans in these parts. Before Nathan could respond, Xena stepped forward. Captain Zarek, is it? Your reputation precedes you. I've heard tales of your shrewd business acumen from Rigel to Deneb. Perhaps we could discuss a potential trade agreement that would benefit both our interests? Zarek's expression shifted from suspicion to intrigue. Well now, that does sound interesting. Sullivan, you've found yourself quite the asset here. As Xena engaged Zarek in conversation, Nathan marveled at her quick thinking and adaptability. When they finally bid farewell to the Andorian, Nathan turned to Xena with newfound respect. That was impressive, he said as they walked back to the ship. You saved us from a potentially dangerous situation. Xena's lips curved into a small smile. It seems I haven't forgotten everything from my life before Zaloria. Once they were back in the safety of Nathan's ship, Xena's demeanor changed. She sat down heavily, her shoulders slumping. Nathan, she said quietly, I think it's time I told you about what really happened on Denobula. As they left the space station behind, Xena recounted the horrors of the Xalorian invasion. She spoke of the brutal efficiency with which her people were conquered, the destruction of their great cities, and the enslavement of the survivors. Nathan listened, his heart heavy with each new detail. I was there when they breached the capital, Xena said, her voice barely above a whisper. I saw my family. I saw things no one should ever have to see. Nathan reached out, hesitating for a moment before gently placing his hand on hers. Xena, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what you've been through. She looked up at him, her violet eyes glistening with unshed tears. But you saved me. Why? Why would you risk so much for a stranger? Before Nathan could answer, a piercing alarm cut through the ship. He rushed to the cockpit, Xena close behind. On the main screen, a distress signal flashed urgently. It's from a human colony, Nathan said, his brow furrowed. They're under attack by Zalorian forces. Xena gasped. The Zalorians? Here? Nathan's hands hovered over the controls as he weighed his options. Responding to the distress call could put Xena in danger and expose his actions on Zaloria, but ignoring it could mean the loss of innocent lives. Nathan, Xena said, her voice stronger than he'd ever heard it, I know you want to help them, and I think I can help you do it. He turned to her, surprised. What do you mean? During my time in captivity, I learned things about Zalorian military tactics, information that could be crucial in a situation like this. Nathan's eyes widened as he realized the implications. Using Xena's knowledge could save the colony, but it would also reveal that he had freed a denobulan slave, painting a target on both their backs. As he grappled with the decision, the distress signal grew more frantic. Reports of Zalorian ships entering the atmosphere crackled through the comm system. Nathan took a deep breath and set a course for the embattled colony. All right, Xena. Tell me everything you know about Zalorian attack patterns. As they approached the planet, the ship's sensors detected a massive Zalorian warship in orbit. Nathan's hands tightened on the controls, knowing that the real challenge was just beginning. There, Xena pointed to a schematic of the warship. Their primary weapons array has a blind spot here. If we can exploit that... Nathan nodded, plotting a daring approach vector. As they dove towards the planet's atmosphere, alarms blared warnings of incoming fire. The true test of their newfound partnership and the fate of the human colony below hung in the balance. Nathan's fingers danced across the controls, guiding his ship through the treacherous debris field surrounding the human colony. Xena leaned forward, her violet eyes fixed on the warship's schematic displayed on the main console. "There," she said, pointing to a specific section. "The primary shield generator is located here. It's protected, but if we can hit it with a concentrated burst..." Nathan nodded, understanding. "We might be able to create a temporary opening in their defenses." "Brilliant, Xena." He maneuvered the ship closer, using the floating wreckage as cover. The Zalorian warship loomed ahead, its massive bulk eclipsing the stars. Nathan's hands tightened on the controls as he lined up the shot. "Now!" Xena called out. Nathan fired. A bright beam of energy lanced out from their ship, striking the Zalorian vessel precisely where Xena had indicated. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a ripple of blue energy cascaded across the warship's hull as its shields fluctuated. "Direct hit!" Nathan exclaimed. "Their shields are down!" Taking advantage of the Zalorians' momentary vulnerability, Nathan targeted their main power core. He launched a barrage of missiles, each one finding its mark with devastating accuracy. Explosions blossomed across the warship's surface as internal systems overloaded and failed. The Zalorian vessel listed to one side, its engines sputtering. Nathan watched as smaller ships began to pour from its hangars, fleeing the crippled warship. The colony below erupted in cheers as the Zalorian threat retreated, their comms filled with jubilant voices. "We did it," Xena breathed, her eyes wide with disbelief. Nathan grinned at her. "We make a good team." As they descended towards the colony, Nathan could see people gathering in the streets, waving and cheering. He landed the ship in the main square, where a crowd had already formed. As the airlock hissed open, they were met with a wall of sound, applause, cheers, and grateful shouts. A tall, distinguished man with graying hair pushed through the crowd. "I'm Governor Marcus Chen," he said, extending his hand to Nathan. "On behalf of all our colonists, I can't thank you enough for your timely intervention." Nathan shook the governor's hand. "Nathan Sullivan, I'm glad we could help." Chen's gaze shifted to Xena, his brow furrowing slightly. "And your companion?" Xena stepped forward, her chin raised. "I'm Xena. I'm a denobulan defector. I provided intelligence on Zalorian tactics." The governor's eyes widened in surprise, but he quickly composed himself. "Well, we owe you both a great debt. Please, come with me. We have much to discuss." As they followed Chen through the colony, Nathan could feel the weight of curious stares on them. Whispers followed in their wake, some excited, others suspicious. He moved closer to Xena, offering silent support. Over the next few hours, Nathan and Xena found themselves thrust into the heart of the colony's defense efforts. They worked alongside the colonists, repairing damaged systems and setting up new defensive perimeters. Nathan marveled at Xena's efficiency and adaptability, watching as she quickly learned to operate unfamiliar human technology. During a brief lull in activity, Nathan found himself alone with Xena as they calibrated a sensor array. He noticed her hands trembling slightly as she worked. "Are you okay?" he asked softly. Xena paused, taking a deep breath. I'm not sure. Everything's happening so fast, and if word gets back to my people about what I've done..." Nathan placed a hand on her shoulder. "Hey, look at me. You've done nothing wrong. You're helping save lives." Xena met his gaze, her violet eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "Thank you, Nathan, for everything." Their moment was interrupted by the arrival of a woman in a white medical coat. "Excuse me," she said, her voice tinged with excitement. "I'm Dr. Alara Voss, the colony's chief medical officer. I was hoping to speak with you, Xena. Your physiology is fascinating, and I was wondering if you'd be willing to participate in some non-invasive studies." Xena hesitated, glancing at Nathan. He gave her an encouraging nod. I suppose that would be all right," Xena replied. As Dr. Voss led Xena away, Nathan couldn't help but feel a twinge of concern. He pushed it aside, focusing on the task at hand. There was still much work to be done to secure the colony. Hours later, as Nathan was helping to fortify the colony's main power plant, an urgent call came through his comm unit. "Nathan, it's Dr. Voss. We've discovered something important. Can you and Xena meet me at the medical bay immediately?" Worry gnawed at Nathan's gut as he made his way to the medical facility. He found Xena and Dr. Voss huddled over a display of test results. "What's going on?" he asked. Dr. Voss turned to him, her eyes bright with excitement. "We've discovered that Xena possesses a natural resistance to certain types of radiation that are harmful to humans. And it's a good thing, too, because we've detected unusual radiation spikes coming from the Silurian debris field." Nathan's mind raced, connecting the dots. "You think they left something behind? Some kind of weapon?" Xena nodded grimly. "It would be consistent with Silurian tactics. They often employ long-term strategies to weaken their enemies." "We need to investigate," Nathan said, grit setting in. "Xena, are you up for a little spacewalk?" Xena straightened, a fierce look in her eyes. "Let's do it." As they donned protective suits and prepared to board a small shuttle, Nathan couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to face their greatest challenge yet. The debris field loomed before them, a graveyard of twisted metal hiding unknown dangers. With Xena by his side, Nathan steeled himself for whatever lay ahead, knowing that the fate of the colony, and perhaps much more, rested in their hands. Hands. The fate of the colony, and perhaps much more, rested in their capable hands as they embarked on this perilous mission. As they maneuvered through the debris field, Xena's eyes scanned the twisted metal fragments, searching for any sign of the suspected Silurian weapon. Nathan piloted the shuttle with expert precision, weaving between jagged chunks of the destroyed warship. "There!" Xena exclaimed, pointing to a pulsing blue light emanating from a large piece of wreckage. Nathan guided the shuttle closer, and they both gasped at the sight. A sleek, cylindrical device was lodged in the remains of what appeared to be the Silurian ship's engine compartment. Its surface rippled with an otherworldly energy that sent shivers down Nathan's spine. "That's definitely Silurian technology," Xena confirmed, her voice tight with tension. "We need to disable it before it can cause any harm to the colony." Nathan nodded, maneuvering the shuttle into position. "All right, I'll hold us steady. You'll have to go out there and deactivate it." Xena took a deep breath, steeling herself for the task ahead. She double-checked her suit's seals before moving to the airlock. Nathan watched her with a mixture of admiration and concern as she stepped out into the void. Using her suit's thrusters, Xena made her way to the pulsing device. Nathan kept a close eye on her vitals, displayed on a small screen in the shuttle's cockpit. Her heart rate was elevated, but steady. "I'm at the device," Xena's voice crackled through the comm. "It appears to be some kind of radiation emitter. I'm going to attempt to shut it down." Nathan held his breath as he watched Xena work. Her gloved hands moved with surprising dexterity, manipulating the alien technology with a familiarity that spoke volumes about her time in captivity. Suddenly, a warning light flashed on Nathan's console. "Xena, we've got company. Silurian fighters incoming." Xena's hands moved faster, her voice strained. "Almost there. Just need to—" A brilliant flash of blue light erupted from the device, momentarily blinding Nathan. When his vision cleared, he saw Xena floating motionless in space, the now-dark cylinder drifting away from her. "Xena!" Nathan shouted, his heart racing. He quickly maneuvered the shuttle closer, extending the rescue arm to retrieve her unresponsive form. As he pulled her into the airlock, the first volley of Silurian weapons fire streaked past the shuttle. Nathan's hands flew across the controls, plotting an evasive course back to the colony. The moment Xena was safely inside, Nathan punched the engines to full power. The shuttle bucked and weaved through the debris field, barely staying ahead of the pursuing Silurian fighters. Come on," Nathan muttered, pushing the small craft to its limits. The colony grew larger in the view screen, and he could see defense batteries coming online, preparing to provide cover fire. With a final burst of speed, Nathan's shuttle cleared the debris field. The colony's defenses opened up, forcing the Silurian fighters to break off their pursuit. As they touched down in the landing bay, Medical teams rushed to meet them. Nathan emerged from the shuttle, cradling Xena's limp form in his arms. "She needs help," he called out, his voice hoarse with fear and exhaustion. Dr. Voss appeared, her face grim as she directed Nathan to place Xena on a waiting gurney. "What happened out there?" she asked, already running scans on the unconscious denobulin. Nathan quickly recounted their encounter with the Xylorian device as they rushed to the medical bay. Dr. Voss's expression grew more concerned with each passing moment. "Her body's been subjected to an intense burst of radiation," the doctor explained, studying the readouts. "It's unlike anything I've seen before. Her natural resistance is helping, but—" Nathan's heart sank. "But what?" Dr. Voss met his gaze, her eyes filled with willpower. "We need to act fast. I have an idea, but it's risky. We might be able to use Xena's unique physiology to create a treatment, but it will require a direct blood transfusion from her to you." Nathan blinked, taken aback. "To me? But I'm not the one who's injured." "The radiation is affecting her on a cellular level," Dr. Voss explained. "By introducing her blood into your system, we might be able to kickstart a healing process that could save you both. But I won't lie to you, Nathan. This is experimental and dangerous." Nathan looked down at Xena's pale face, remembering all they had been through together. Without hesitation, he rolled up his sleeve. "Do it." As Dr. Voss and her team prepared for the procedure, Nathan felt a strange mix of fear and hope. He reached out and took Xena's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "Hang in there," he whispered. "We've got more adventures ahead of us." The medical bay buzzed with activity as Dr. Voss began the transfusion. Nathan felt a warm sensation spreading through his body as Xena's blood entered his system. His vision began to blur, and the last thing he saw before losing consciousness was Xena's fingers twitching in his grasp. Nathan drifted in and out of awareness, catching snippets of conversation and fleeting sensations. He felt a gentle touch on his forehead, heard Dr. Voss's voice discussing cellular regeneration, and caught a glimpse of Xena's violet eyes looking down at him with concern. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Nathan's eyes fluttered open. The harsh lights of the medical bay made him wince, but as his vision cleared, he saw Xena sitting beside his bed, her face etched with worry and relief. "Welcome back," she said softly, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Nathan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. Xena quickly offered him a cup of water, supporting his head as he drank. "How long was I out?" he managed to croak. 3 days, Xena replied, her hand lingering on his arm. "Dr. Voss wasn't sure if the treatment would work, but your vitals started improving yesterday." Nathan's mind raced, trying to process everything that had happened. He looked at Xena, really looked at her, and felt a surge of emotion he couldn't quite name. "You saved me," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Xena shook her head, her violet eyes glistening. "We saved each other, Nathan, and I'm not sure I can ever repay you for what you've done for me." Before Nathan could respond, the door to the medical bay slid open, revealing Dr. Voss and a tall, distinguished man in a crisp military uniform. Nathan recognized the insignia of an admiral on the man's collar. "Mr. Sullivan," the admiral said, stepping forward, "I'm Admiral Kieran Hayes, commander of the Human Defense Fleet in this sector. I've heard quite a lot about you and your denobulin friend here." Nathan attempted to sit up, wincing at the effort. Xena quickly moved to help him, adjusting the bed to a more comfortable position. Admiral Hayes watched their interaction with interest. "What you two have accomplished here is nothing short of remarkable. Not only did you save this colony, but you've provided us with invaluable intelligence on Xylorian tactics and technology." Nathan and Xena exchanged a glance, unsure of where this was going. The Admiral continued, his tone becoming more serious. "I have a proposition for you both, one that could change the course of our conflict with the Xylorian Empire and potentially save countless lives." As Admiral Hayes began to outline his plan, Nathan felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. He reached out and took Xena's hand, drawing strength from her presence. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. Together. Nathan's mind raced with the implications of the Admiral's words, but he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he and Xena would face them as a team. "What's your plan, Admiral?" Nathan asked, his voice still hoarse but filled with tenacity. Admiral Hayes pulled up a holographic display, revealing a swirling mass of gas and energy. "This is the Vortex Nebula, a treacherous region of space that lies between us and the Zolorian-controlled sector. Our intelligence suggests that a denobulan science outpost is hidden deep within the nebula, housing some of the brightest minds in the galaxy." Xena's eyes widened. "I've heard rumors of such a place, but I never thought—" "It's real," the Admiral confirmed, "and we believe Dr. Lyra Tanos, a leading denobulan scientist, is being held there against her will. Her knowledge could be the key to turning the tide against the Xolorians." Nathan glanced at Xena, seeing the determination in her eyes. "You want us to mount a rescue mission," he stated. Admiral Hayes nodded. "It's a high-risk operation. The nebula's radiation and gravitational anomalies make it nearly impossible to navigate. But with your piloting skills, Nathan, and Xena's knowledge of Zolorian tactics, you might just pull it off." Without hesitation, Nathan and Xena agreed to take on the mission. The next few days were a whirlwind of preparation. They were assigned a cutting-edge stealth ship, equipped with the latest in human and salvaged Zolorian technology. As Nathan familiarized himself with the ship's systems, Xena pored over what little intelligence they had on the denobulan outpost. The night before their departure, Nathan found Xena on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. He approached quietly, standing beside her. "Nervous?" he asked softly. Xena turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the starlight. "A little, but more hopeful. If we can rescue Dr. Tanos and the other denobulans, it could change everything." Nathan nodded, feeling the weight of their mission. "Whatever happens out there, I'm glad you're with me." Their eyes met, and for a moment, the universe seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Nathan leaned in, his heart racing, and their lips met in a tender kiss. It was brief but filled with unspoken emotions and promises. As they broke apart, an alarm blared through the ship. "All hands, battle stations! Zolorian attack force detected on long-range sensors." Nathan and Xena sprinted to the bridge, arriving just as Admiral Hayes was issuing orders. "Sullivan, to Lyra, your mission is now or never. Use the chaos of the battle as cover and make your way to the nebula. We'll hold off the Zolorians as long as we can." They raced to their ship, powering up systems as the sounds of battle erupted around them. Nathan's hands flew over the controls, guiding the ship out of the hangar and into the fray. Zolorian fighters swarmed around them, energy weapons lighting up the void. "Hang on!" Nathan called out as he executed a series of evasive maneuvers. Xena monitored the ship's systems, calling out sensor data and damage reports. As they approached the edge of the nebula, a Zolorian battlecruiser moved to intercept them. "Nathan, we can't outgun them," Xena warned. Nathan gritted his teeth, making a split-second decision. "Then we'll outmaneuver them." He angled the ship towards the swirling gases of the nebula, punching the engines to maximum. The Zolorian ship fired, energy beams lancing past them as Nathan weaved through the intensifying gravitational eddies. Warning alarms blared as radiation levels spiked. "Shields at 60% and falling," Xena reported, her voice tense but steady. Nathan's world narrowed to the view screen and his controls. He guided the ship deeper into the nebula, using the violent energy discharges as cover. The Zolorian battle group, unwilling to risk their larger ships in the treacherous environment, broke off pursuit. As they penetrated further into the nebula, the ship groaned under the strain. Systems flickered, and the hull creaked ominously. Nathan's hands were a blur over the controls, making constant adjustments to keep them from being torn apart. "Nathan, look!" Xena called out, pointing to a faint energy signature on their sensors. "That must be the outpost." Pushing the damaged ship to its limits, Nathan guided them towards the signal. As they emerged from a particularly dense pocket of gases, a structure appeared before them, a blend of denobulan and Zolorian architecture hidden within the heart of the nebula. "We made it," Nathan breathed, allowing himself a moment of relief. But as they approached the outpost, new challenges arose. Zolorian defense systems activated and alarms blared throughout their ship. "They've detected us," Xena reported, her fingers flying over the console. I'm trying to jam their signals, but we need to move fast. Nathan nodded, his teeth clenched. Let's go get our scientists. He maneuvered the ship towards a docking port, knowing that the real battle was just beginning. As they prepared to board the outpost, Nathan and Xena exchanged a look of unwavering purpose, ready to face whatever awaited them within. As Nathan and Xena prepared to board the outpost, they exchanged a final glance, their dedication evident in their eyes. With a nod, Nathan activated the airlock, and they stepped into the unknown. The interior of the outpost was a stark contrast to the swirling chaos of the nebula outside. Sterile white corridors stretched before them, the air heavy with an eerie silence. Nathan signaled to the small team behind them, and they began to move forward, weapons at the ready. Xena's acute hearing picked up the faint sound of footsteps approaching. "Company," she whispered, gesturing towards an intersection ahead. Nathan quickly directed the team to take cover. Moments later, a group of Zalorian elites rounded the corner, their sleek armor gleaming under the harsh lighting. Without hesitation, Nathan opened fire, his plasma rifle sending bolts of energy streaking down the corridor. The Zalorians reacted with practiced precision, returning fire as they sought cover. The air crackled with energy as both sides exchanged volleys, the narrow corridor amplifying the sound of each blast. Xena, utilizing her knowledge of Zalorian tactics, flanked the enemy position. She vaulted over a fallen bulkhead, her lithe form a blur of motion as she closed the distance. Her vibroblade hummed to life as she engaged the nearest Zalorian in close combat, her movements a deadly dance of skill and speed. Nathan, seeing Xena's maneuver, called out to the team, "Push forward!" He led the charge, laying down suppressing fire to keep the Zalorians pinned. The human soldiers followed his lead, their coordinated assault forcing the enemy back. As they fought their way deeper into the outpost, alarms blared to life. The facility shuddered, debris raining down from the ceiling as the battle outside took its toll on the structure. "We need to find Dr. Tanos and get out of here fast," Nathan shouted over the din of combat and klaxons. They battled through several more Zalorian squads, each engagement more intense than the last. Nathan's quick thinking and combat experience proved invaluable as he guided the team through the maze-like corridors, using the chaotic environment to their advantage. During a brief lull in the fighting, they stumbled upon a secured laboratory. Xena quickly bypassed the lock, and the door slid open to reveal a group of startled Denobulan scientists. A tall, elegant Denobulan woman stepped forward, her eyes sharp with intelligence. "I'm Dr. Lyra Tanos," she announced. "I assume you're our rescue party." Nathan nodded. "We need to move now, Doctor. This place is falling apart." As they began to escort the scientists out, another wave of Zalorian elites descended upon them. The team found themselves pinned down in a large chamber, filled with experimental equipment. Dr. Tanos, observing the dire situation, called out to Nathan, "Those power conduits along the wall, if we overload them, it could create a distraction." Nathan glanced at the conduits, then back to the advancing Zalorians. "Do it!" Tanos and another scientist quickly set to work, their fingers flying over nearby control panels. Moments later, the conduits began to spark and hum ominously. "Everyone down!" Nathan yelled, pulling Xena behind a heavy piece of machinery. The chamber erupted in a series of explosions, the shock wave rattling their bones. As the dust settled, Nathan saw their opportunity. "Now's our chance. Move!" They raced through the smoke-filled corridors, the sounds of pursuit growing fainter behind them. As they approached the shuttle bay, a stray energy bolt caught Nathan in the leg. He stumbled, crying out in pain. Xena was at his side in an instant, supporting his weight. "I've got you," she said, her voice filled with concern and willpower. With Xena's help, Nathan limped onward, gritting his teeth against the searing pain in his leg. They finally reached the shuttle bay, only to find the atmospheric containment field flickering dangerously. "The field's failing," Dr. Tanos warned, her eyes wide with alarm. Despite his injury, Nathan limped to the shuttle's control panel. "Dr. Tanos, I need your help. We can reconfigure the shuttle systems to create a temporary force field." As Nathan and Tanos worked feverishly, Xena and the others held off the approaching Zalorian forces. The sound of weapons fire echoed through the bay, punctuated by the groaning of the failing structure around them. "Got it!" Nathan called out as a shimmering field sprang to life around the shuttle. "Everyone in, now!" They piled into the shuttle, Xena taking the pilot's seat as Nathan slumped into the co-pilot's chair, his face pale with pain and exertion. The bay doors opened, revealing the chaos of the space battle raging outside. Xena's hands danced over the controls, and the shuttle leapt forward into the maelstrom of fire and debris. "Hang on," she called out, her voice steady despite the danger. "This is going to be a rough ride." As they emerged from the disintegrating outpost, they found themselves in the heart of a massive confrontation between the human fleet and the Zolorian forces. Explosions bloomed in the void around them, and energy beams crisscrossed their path. Xena's piloting skills were put to the ultimate test as she wove through the battlefield, relying on Nathan's tactical advice to plot the safest course. The shuttle bucked and shuddered as it narrowly avoided volleys of weapons fire. "Human fighters, 3 o'clock!" Nathan called out, his eyes glued to the sensor readouts. A squadron of human fighters swooped in, providing cover for their escape. Admiral Hayes' voice crackled over the comm system. "Sullivan, Talira, get your team to safety. We'll hold them off." As they flew towards the relative safety of the human fleet, a massive Zolorian battlecruiser loomed before them, its weapon systems powering up. Nathan's mind raced, searching for a solution. "Xena, the stealth tech. If we can get close enough to their hull, we might be able to slip past their sensors." Xena nodded, understanding the risk. She angled the shuttle towards the battlecruiser, ignoring the gasps of alarm from their passengers. "Are you insane?" Dr. Tanos exclaimed, gripping her seat tightly. "Probably," Nathan replied with a grim smile. "But it's our best shot." Xena guided the shuttle with expert precision, skimming so close to the battlecruiser's hull that they could see individual armor plates. Weapons fire from the human fleet impacted the Zolorian ship, rocking the shuttle with each near miss. For a heart-stopping moment, it seemed as if they would be caught in the crossfire. Then suddenly, they were past the battlecruiser, streaking towards the open hangar bay of Admiral Hayes' flagship. As they touched down, medical teams rushed to meet them. Nathan felt the adrenaline draining from his system, the pain in his leg returning with a vengeance. He looked at Xena, a weary smile on his face. "Nice flying." Xena returned the smile, relief evident in her violet eyes. "Nice plan." As the medical team helped Nathan onto a stretcher, Admiral Hayes approached, his face a mix of concern and admiration. "Well done, both of you. Report to my ready room as soon as medical clears you. We have much to discuss." Nathan nodded, his mind already racing with the implications of their successful mission. As he was wheeled towards the medical bay, Xena walking beside him, he knew that this was just the beginning. The real challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The implications of their mission's success caused great concern on Nathan's mind as the medical team whisked him away. Days later, Nathan found himself standing beside Xena in Admiral Hayes' ready room, his legs still tender but healing well. The Admiral's weathered face broke into a rare smile as he regarded them. "Excellent work, both of you," Hayes said, his voice gruff but warm. "The intelligence you've recovered is invaluable. Now, I have a new assignment for you." Nathan and Xena exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. Hayes continued, "We're forming a joint human denobulan task force. Your mission is to establish a covert base of operations near Zolorian space. This will serve as our staging ground for future missions and a sanctuary for liberated denobulans." Xena's violet eyes widened. "A bold move, Admiral. It won't be easy to keep such an operation hidden from the Zolorians." "That's why I'm putting you two in charge," Hayes replied. "Your combined skills and experience make you uniquely qualified for this task." Nathan nodded, his mind already racing with possibilities. "We'll need to find a suitable location first, somewhere off the main trade routes, but with enough resources to sustain our operations." "Exactly," Hayes agreed. "You have full authority to assemble your team and resources. Get to work." In the following weeks, Nathan and Xena pored over star charts and intelligence reports, searching for the perfect location for their base. They assembled a diverse team of human and denobulan experts, each bringing unique skills to the table. After careful consideration, they set course for a promising planet near the edge of Zalorian-controlled space. As their ship entered orbit, Nathan studied the sensor readings with growing excitement. "Xena, look at this," he called out, gesturing to a blinking indicator on the screen. "There's an unusual energy signature coming from that dense jungle region." Xena leaned in, her brow furrowing. "It's faint, but definitely artificial. We should investigate." They took a shuttle down to the surface, the lush vegetation parting as they descended. As they stepped out into the humid air, Nathan activated his scanner, following the energy signature deeper into the jungle. Suddenly, the dense foliage gave way to reveal a stunning sight. Before them stood an ancient structure, its architecture unmistakably denobulan, yet weathered by centuries of neglect. "An old outpost," Xena breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "I've never seen anything like it outside of historical records." They cautiously entered the overgrown building, their footsteps echoing in the empty halls. Despite its age, much of the technology inside appeared salvageable. "This could be perfect for our base," Nathan said, running his hand along a console. "We can repurpose this tech, saving us time and resources." And as they explored further, a noise caught Xena's attention. She held up a hand, signaling Nathan to stop. "We're not alone," she whispered. Moments later, they found themselves surrounded by a group of denobulans, their makeshift weapons trained on the intruders. A tall woman with striking features stepped forward, her eyes narrowing as she regarded Nathan. "I am Lyra," she announced, her voice firm. "Who are you, and why have you come to our sanctuary?" Xena stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "I am Xena Talira, and this is Nathan Sullivan. We're here on a mission to help the denobulan people." Lyra's gaze softened slightly at Xena's words, but her suspicion remained evident. "A human and a denobulan working together? Explain yourselves." Over the next hour, Nathan and Xena shared their story and mission with Lyra and her group. The refugees, having escaped Zalorian enslavement years ago, listened with a mix of hope and skepticism. "Your cause is noble," Lyra said finally. "But how can we trust a human? Our experiences with your kind have been limited." Nathan met her gaze steadily. "I understand your reservations, but I give you my word. We're here to help. Let us prove it to you." Xena placed a hand on Nathan's arm, a gesture that didn't go unnoticed by Lyra. "I vouch for Nathan," Xena said firmly. "He has risked his life for our people many times. Together, we can make a difference." Lyra studied them for a long moment before nodding. "Very well. We will work with you. But know this, we will be watching closely." In the days that followed, Nathan and Xena's task force arrived, setting up their base within the ancient outpost. The integration of the two groups was not without its challenges. Cultural misunderstandings and lingering prejudices created tension among team members. Nathan observed two human engineers arguing with a denobulan scientist over the proper way to calibrate a power relay. He sighed, realizing they needed to address these issues head-on. "Xena," he said, turning to his partner, "we need to do something about this. If we can't work together effectively, this whole operation is at risk." Xena nodded, her expression thoughtful. "Perhaps we could organize some team-building exercises, and cross-cultural training sessions might help bridge the gap in understanding." They set to work, creating programs to foster cooperation and mutual respect among the team members. Nathan led combat drills that paired humans and denobulans together, forcing them to rely on each other's strengths. Xena organized cultural exchange sessions, where team members shared stories, customs, and even meals from their respective worlds. As the days passed, the tension began to ease. Nathan watched with satisfaction as a human security officer and a denobulan engineer worked side by side, their earlier animosity replaced by friendly banter. One evening, as Nathan and Xena took a rare moment of respite, they found themselves alone on a balcony overlooking the jungle. The setting suns painted the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple. Xena leaned against Nathan, her warmth a comfort in the cooling air. "We've come a long way," she said softly. Nathan wrapped an arm around her, pulling her close. "We have, and we still have a long way to go. But together, I think we can make it." Their moment of peace was interrupted by an urgent call from the command center. Commander Sullivan, Commander Talira, we've intercepted a transmission. You need to see this immediately. They hurried to the control room where Dr. Tanos was waiting for them, her face grave. We've detected a Zalorian slave transport ship, she reported. It's carrying a group of captured denobulan scientists. Nathan's eyes sharp. Where are they headed? Based on their trajectory, they're likely bound for a secret research facility, Dr. Tanos replied. If we act quickly, we might be able to intercept them. Xena's eyes met Nathan's, a silent understanding passing between them. It's time to put our team to the test, she said. Nathan nodded, his voice firm as he addressed the room. All right, people. This is what we've been preparing for. Let's show the Zalorians what this task force can do. Do! Nathan's voice rang out with perseverance as he addressed the assembled team. We have a chance to save these scientists and strike a blow against the Zalorians. Everyone to your stations. The control room erupted into a flurry of activity as the task force prepared for their rescue mission. Nathan turned to Xena, his expression grave. We'll need to move fast if we want to intercept that transport. As they rushed to the hangar bay, an urgent transmission came through from Admiral Hayes. Nathan's wrist communicator buzzed insistently. Sullivan, Talira, hold your position. Hayes's voice crackled through the device. New intelligence has come to light. This is bigger than we thought. Nathan and Xena exchanged worried glances as they diverted to a secure communication room. Hayes's holographic image flickered to life before them, his face etched with concern. We've uncovered something far more sinister, Hayes began without preamble. General Vex has provided us with intel on a Zalorian superweapon. It's a planet killer, capable of destabilizing a star's core and causing it to go supernova. Xena's violet eyes widened in shock. By the ancestors, she breathed, the devastation would be unimaginable. Hayes nodded grimly. Worse, we believe their first target is the denobulan homeworld. Despite the occupation, billions still live there. Nathan's mind raced, processing the implications. We need to stop them. Where's the weapon located? In the heart of Zalorian territory, Hayes replied. I'm transmitting the coordinates now. Sullivan, Talira, I need you to lead a small team to infiltrate and disable that weapon. Meanwhile, I'll marshal our combined fleets for an assault on their capital world as a diversion. Nathan's eyebrows furrowed. Understood, Admiral. We won't let you down. As the transmission ended, Nathan turned to Xena. The gravity of their mission hung heavy in the air between them. Xena, Nathan said softly, taking her hands in his. Before we do this, there's something I need to ask you. Xena met his gaze, her expression a mix of curiosity and affection. What is it, Nathan? We've been through so much together. You've become more than just my partner in this fight. I love you, Xena. And if we're about to risk everything, I want to do it as more than just teammates. Understanding dawned in Xena's eyes. Nathan, are you asking? He nodded, a smile breaking through his serious expression. Will you marry me, Xena, right here, right now, before we face whatever comes next? Xena's face lit up with joy. Yes, she said, her voice filled with emotion. 1,000 times, yes. In the hours that followed, they hastily arranged a small ceremony that blended human and denobulan traditions. Their closest teammates gathered as witnesses, the impending mission lending an air of urgency to the proceedings. As they exchanged vows, Nathan marveled at how fate had brought them together. From that chance encounter at a slave auction to standing here now, partners in every sense of the word. With the ceremony concluded, the newly married couple turned their focus to the mission at hand. They assembled an elite team, including Dr. Tanos for her technical expertise and Lyra to represent the denobulan refugees. As they boarded their stealth ship, Nathan took the pilot's seat. He glanced at Xena, seated beside him as co-pilot. Ready for this? Xena nodded, her expression determined. With you? Always. The ship lifted off, cloaking systems engaged as they left the atmosphere. Nathan expertly guided them through the treacherous space lanes leading to Zalorian territory. Xena's intimate knowledge of Zalorian protocols proved invaluable as they evaded detection by patrols and automated defense systems. Hours later, they approached their target. The Zalorian superweapon facility loomed before them, a massive structure filled with defensive weaponry. There! Xena pointed to a small landing pad partially concealed by the facility's architecture. That's our best bet for insertion. Nathan nodded, guiding the ship down under the cover of darkness. As they touched down, the team quickly disembarked, weapons at the ready. Remember, Nathan whispered as they approached the facility's entrance, our primary objective is to disable that weapon. Everything else is secondary. They moved swiftly through the shadowy corridors, Xena's knowledge of Zalorian design allowing them to avoid the most heavily guarded areas. However, as they neared the central control room, alarms suddenly blared to life. We've been detected, Dr. Tanos hissed, her fingers flying over a datapad. Security protocols are activating throughout the facility. No sooner had she spoken than a squad of Zalorian guards rounded the corner, their cybernetically enhanced bodies gleaming in the harsh emergency lighting. Nathan's combat training kicked in as he dove for cover, laying down suppressing fire. Xena moved with incredible agility, using her natural denobulan flexibility to outmaneuver the guards. She vaulted over a barricade, landing behind two Zalorians and taking them out with precise strikes. Lyra, cover our six, Nathan called out as he and Xena pushed forward. The denobulan refugee leader nodded, positioning her team to guard their rear as they advanced. They fought their way through increasingly heavy resistance, the halls echoing with weapons fire and the clash of hand-to-hand combat. Nathan's muscles burned with exertion as he grappled with a particularly large Zalorian guard, finally managing to overpower him. At last, they reached the control room. Dr. Tanos immediately set to work on the main console, her fingers a blur as she attempted to hack the weapon systems. How long? Nathan asked, keeping his weapon trained on the door. 5 minutes, maybe less if I can bypass their secondary firewalls, Tanos replied, not looking up from her work. Xena joined Nathan at the door, her breathing heavy from the fighting. We may not have 5 minutes. I can hear reinforcements coming. Nathan's mind raced, searching for a solution. His eyes landed on a small maintenance duct in the corner of the room. Xena, your flexibility. Can you fit through there? Xena followed his gaze and nodded, understanding his plan. Without hesitation, she contorted her body, squeezing into the narrow opening. Nathan watched in amazement as she disappeared into the duct, marveling once again at her incredible abilities. Moments later, the sound of fighting erupted from the corridor outside. Nathan risked a glance through the doorway to see Xena engaging the Zalorian reinforcements from behind, creating chaos in their ranks. Almost there, Dr. Tanos called out, her voice tight with concentration. Suddenly, a massive figure burst through the doorway, scattering debris and smaller Zalorians alike. Nathan found himself face to face with the facility's commander, a towering cyborg with glowing red eyes. You will not stop us, human, the commander growled, his voice a mechanical rasp. Nathan raised his weapon, but the cyborg moved with impossible speed, knocking it from his hands. They crashed together in a brutal grapple, Nathan's combat skills tested to their limit against the commander's enhanced strength. As they fought, Nathan could hear Dr. Tanos working feverishly behind him, and the sounds of Xena and Lyra's team holding off the remaining Zalorian forces. He gritted his teeth, knowing he had to buy them just a little more time. The cyborg commander landed a punishing blow to Nathan's ribs, driving the air from his lungs. Nathan stumbled back, his vision blurring from the pain. But as he looked up, he saw Xena re-enter the room through the maintenance duct, her eyes widening as she took in the scene. Their gazes met for a split second, a lifetime of understanding passing between them in that moment. Nathan knew what he had to do. With a surge of adrenaline, he lunged at the cyborg commander, grappling him in a hold that left them both vulnerable. Now, Xena! He shouted. Xena didn't hesitate. She launched herself at the commander, using Nathan's hold as leverage to strike at a weak point in the cyborg's armor. There was a shower of sparks, and the commander's movements became erratic. Nathan released his hold, stumbling back as the cyborg flailed wildly. Xena caught him, supporting his weight as they moved away from the malfunctioning commander. It's done, Dr. Tanos cried out triumphantly. The weapon is deactivated. But their victory was short-lived. Alarms began to blare throughout the facility, accompanied by an ominous rumbling. The system's deactivation has triggered a self-destruct sequence, Tanos reported, her face pale. We have minutes before this whole place goes up. Nathan straightened, ignoring the pain that lanced through his body. Then let's not waste them. Everyone, back to the ship, now! They fought their way back through the facility, the corridors now filled with panicking Zalorians, more concerned with their own escape than stopping the intruders. Nathan's injuries slowed him down, each step sending waves of agony through his battered body. Xena noticed his struggle and immediately moved to support him. Together, she said, her voice filled with drive as she helped him along. They reached the landing pad just as the first explosions began to rock the facility. Nathan stumbled into the pilot's seat, his vision swimming as he fought to stay conscious. You're in no condition to fly, Xena said firmly, gently but insistently moving him to the co-pilot's chair. I've got this. As Xena took the controls, Nathan managed a weak smile. I always said you were the better pilot anyway. The ship lifted off, Xena's expert hands guiding them through a hail of debris and weapons fire from the few remaining Zalorian ships in orbit. As they broke atmosphere, the facility below them erupted in a massive fireball. Nathan's last conscious thoughts, before succumbing to his injuries, were of relief and pride. They had done it. They had stopped the weapon. And as he looked at Xena, expertly piloting them to safety, he knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together.
If you finished this story, please subscribe and like the video. Then leave a comment that says, I liked the story, and I will heart every single one of them. It really helps me. Thank you for your time.